Hi, I'm Emily Slater, and I have prepared a presentation on COBRA continuation insurance for my benefits project for compensation and benefits, Business 461. So, what is COBRA? The Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1986 is a federal law that requires employers with 20 or more employees to offer employees as well as their qualified beneficiaries who have experienced a qualifying event the opportunity to continue their group healthcare coverage for a temporary period of time under the employer's plan, but those who elect the COBRA continuation are responsible for the cost. COBRA continuation coverage is offered when a qualifying event has occurred. Some common examples of qualifying events are termination of employment, whether it was voluntary or involuntary, except for gross misconduct. When employment is terminated, the former employee and their dependents are no longer eligible to remain on the employer's group health care plan. Employees' reduction in working hours. This is another common qualifying event in which the employee and their dependents are no longer eligible for the employer's group health care plan due to the employee not working enough hours. Eligibility regarding the amount of hours an employee must work in order to be eligible for the employer's plan does vary by the employer. Divorce or legal separation is a qualifying event in which an employee's ex-spouse would be in a position to elect COBRA. In the event of a divorce, the former spouse is no longer an eligible dependent to remain covered on the employee's health care coverage. Medicare entitlement of the employee. Similar to a divorce, the employee's dependents will lose coverage under the employee's health care plan and experience a qualifying event when the employee becomes entitled to Medicare. Because the employee will no longer need the employer's healthcare policy due to becoming Medicare eligible, the policy will terminate and the employee's dependents will be in a position to elect COBRA. Dependent child's loss of dependent status. Employees' children are only eligible to remain covered as dependents under the employee's plan up until the age of 26, unless they are incapacitated. So when an employee's adult child ages off their policy, they will be offered COBRA. Death of an employee. In a situation such as this, the employee's healthcare coverage through the employer would terminate and the employee's qualified beneficiaries would be in a position to elect COBRA. So, to recap, who is eligible to elect COBRA? A current employee whose hours were reduced, a former employee whose employment was recently terminated, qualified beneficiaries. These are individuals who are entitled to COBRA because they were covered by a group health care plan on the day before a qualifying event. Most commonly, qualified beneficiaries are spouses and children. It is important to note that each qualified beneficiary has their own right to elect COBRA. The type of qualifying event determines the length of the COBRA continuation. For instance, qualifying events such as termination of employment and reduction in hours trigger 18 months of COBRA. 29 months. This is referred to as the disability extension, which will extend the 18-month continuation period for an additional 11 months. 36 months of COBRA continuation is offered for qualifying events such as divorce, loss of dependent status, and death of the employee. COBRA participants can have a second qualifying event while on COBRA, extending their coverage for an additional 18 months for the maximum of 36 months. While my presentation is on COBRA, I feel it is important to mention state continuation coverage. which is similar to COBRA, but is a state-based requirement that applies to group health insurance policies of employers with fewer than 20 employees. However, in some states, state continuation rules apply to large group insurance policies and add to COBRA protections. Some examples of state continuation links in the states surrounding LCSE, for instance, starting with Washington, the insurance company and the employer decide how long the continuation will be, and this ranges anywhere from 1 to 36 months. Idaho does not have a state health care insurance provision. When an individual loses their group health care coverage, continuation is governed exclusively by federal law. Oregon law requires a continuation for up to 9 months, and Utah allows a 12-month continuation. A notice of COBRA rights outlines the procedures for electing COBRA. The election period must be at least 60 days, which is measured from the date of the qualifying event or the date of the COBRA election notice, whichever is later. The deadline for the election will be noted, how to notify the administrator of the election, and the date the COBRA will begin, which is usually the first of the month following the date of the qualifying events. The maximum length of COBRA will also be noted. Other administrative info such as monthly premium amounts, the due date for the payments, and where to send the payments will be noted in the election notice. An important consideration before electing COBRA is the cost. One should compare the costs and benefits of an individual or family plan to that of the COBRA policy. The COBRA participant is usually responsible for the entire premium amount unless the employer has decided to subsidize their COBRA. However, this is an unlikely event that the employer would subsidize the COBRA. When the COBRA participant realizes the full amount of their health insurance premiums, they understand just how important and beneficial it was to them to be covered under an employer-sponsored group health care plan. That concludes my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and found it to be informative. For further information, please visit the noted sources.